Dallas police officers suddenly came under a hail of gunfire. A gunman had taken cover, and bullets were flying in every direction. In this episode, we will reconstruct the timeline of the attack and find out what extraordinary measures officers had to take to eliminate the threat. Dallas, Texas. On the evening of July 7, 2016, a protest began in downtown Dallas.
Black Lives Matter!
The demonstration was organized in response to the fatal police shootings of two black men. The first incident occurred on July 5. 37-year-old Alton Sterling was killed after he resisted officers during an arrest while armed with a handgun. The second incident occurred on July 6. 32-year-old Philando Castile was fatally shot during a traffic stop. Approximately 800 people took part in the protest, while about 100 police officers were assigned to provide security. At 8:58 p.m., as the protest was coming to an end, a vehicle with its hazard lights flashing pulled over on Lamar Street. A man stepped out of the vehicle and suddenly opened fire on police officers and demonstrators. Panic spread through the streets. At first, many demonstrators thought the initial gunshots were fireworks. Within seconds, however, it became clear that someone was deliberately firing at people. Demonstrators rushed for cover while officers tried to evacuate civilians from the line of fire and locate the shooter at the same time. Those first few minutes were the most chaotic. The gunman kept moving while firing his rifle.
Get out of the street! Get down!
Officer down. I repeat, officer has been down.
Where's he coming from? I don't know. We got one more guy down up there! Simba, stay with me!
The sound of gunfire echoed off the surrounding high-rise buildings, making it seem as though shots were coming from several different directions. Because of the echoes, many officers initially believed they were facing multiple attackers. Police radio traffic quickly became overwhelmed with emergency transmissions, while officers could not see the shooter and were forced to operate almost blindly.
We have got to get DFD down here now. He is one sick right now. 169, get him here.
We're on the way.
11 officers returned fire, but were unable to stop the attack. During the exchange of gunfire, 3 police officers were killed, while 3 more officers and 1 civilian were wounded.
Shots fired. Officer down. It's an assist officer.
DFR, set up somewhere. Am I taking this guy to the hospital? He's low 6. Go.
We're notifying Baylor and Parkland.
The suspect then attempted to enter Centro College and fired several rounds through a glass entrance door. At that moment, 2 college police officers were heading toward the exit. Officer John Abbott suffered injuries to his legs from flying glass, while Corporal Brian Shaw was shot in the abdomen despite wearing body armor.
Get down! Get down! Get down!
The suspect failed to enter the building through that entrance and continued toward Elm Street. Along the way, he encountered Dallas area Rapid Transit Officer Brent Thompson. When Officer Thompson spotted the gunman, he immediately took cover behind a concrete column. The suspect moved closer, fired at one side of the column, then ran around to the opposite side. After getting behind Officer Thompson, gunman opened fire and killed him. By that point, the suspect had already been wounded, but he continued moving through the area. After walking along Elm Street, the gunman reached another entrance to the college. He shot out the glass door and entered the building. Corporal Shaw, who had just been wounded in the abdomen, heard the sound of gunfire and breaking glass. He moved toward the sounds and discovered a trail of blood leading to a staircase. Another officer joined Corporal Shaw, and together they began making their way up the stairs. Suddenly, a barrage of gunfire erupted from above and rained down on the officers. The officers returned fire, but soon stopped shooting and withdrew. Students and faculty members were still inside the college. Some of them had no idea that an armed gunman was in the building. The suspect moved through the library on the second floor and stopped in front of windows overlooking Elm Street. Spotting officers outside, he immediately opened fire. During the attack, Sergeant Michael Smith was mortally wounded. After firing from the windows, the suspect continued moving through the second-floor hallways. Once the gunfire outside subsided, officers entered the building.
I got you, brother. Hold on. I got you.
Hey, we don't know what stairwell he's up. He could be down.
SWAT officers and patrol units began clearing the college room by room. They carefully advanced through the hallways, checking every classroom and office.
Is that open, guys?
While searching one of the stairwells, officers discovered a trail of blood leading upstairs.
LT, we're gonna follow the blood. You got no choice.
The officers cautiously began climbing the stairs. As they moved higher, they realized the gunman was only a short distance away. At approximately 10 p.m., as officers reached the second floor, gunfire suddenly erupted.
Damn it.
The officers immediately returned fire.
Stay right there.
Come out with your hands up! Drop your weapon and come out!
Shortly afterward, they were able to determine the suspect's exact location. The gunman had barricaded himself in a long second-floor hallway, giving him a clear view of every possible approach. The hallway was surrounded by rooms containing computer servers. A corridor roughly 30 feet long separated the SWAT officers from the suspect. The suspect periodically opened fire, and officers responded with controlled bursts of their own.
What's your name? Huh? X? Hey, X, how you doing? X, I need you to put that gun down and come out of here. Well, I know you're prepared for this. Obviously, this isn't going to end well.
Because an assault could have resulted in additional casualties, officers decided to shift to negotiations. The suspect announced that he would speak only with black police officers.
I just want to talk to you, X. Can you talk to me for a second? What's going on today, man? Well, listen to me, X. Can you hear me? I can't hear your point because I'm too worried about being shot. Okay, I won't call you, bro. I apologize.
Senior Corporal Larry Gordon told the gunman that he was black, and negotiations began.
You said we're killing your black brothers, right? You know I'm black? Did you know I'm black? I'm black, bro. I just went to college.
Officers were especially concerned that the suspect's rifle rounds easily penetrated the building's drywall, creating a serious danger for both officers and civilians still inside.
I told you, X, I got control over here. I'm trying to make you understand. I got control.
Throughout the standoff, the suspect repeatedly taunted officers, trying to provoke them while claiming that he had planted bombs throughout downtown Dallas. Subsequent searches of downtown Dallas found no evidence of any explosive devices.
You know what's going to happen, X? You know what's going to happen if you kill yourself? You know what's going to happen? What? The media is going to tell their own story. I don't care. My people will know what I've done. But X, we want to know. Can we find out? You not see the proof? He's fighting. That's what I'm doing. If I was a soldier and I was killing Iraqis, y'all would be praising me as a hero. And now that I killed y'all, the real terrorists, now what? I'm mentally insane. But is it going to be looked at that way, X? I don't care how people know. But I'm saying, you're doing this for black people, right? Yeah. How is black people going to look at it? There are many of us who feel the way I do. I understand that. I understand that. But maybe if you tell your story on some type of news channel, the people who don't feel you will feel you. talking is over. It's time for revolution, brother.
For nearly 4 hours, officers continued trying to persuade the suspect to surrender peacefully. Eventually, however, they concluded that he had no intention of giving himself up.
If you are my brother, turn the weapon on those sides.
SWAT commanders began evaluating several tactical options to bring the standoff to an end. One option involved using a large caliber precision rifle. However, because the suspect was barricaded inside a college building with thin drywall walls and civilians still inside, the tactical team determined that the risk was too great. Officers also considered breaching the ceiling with explosives and attacking the suspect from above. That plan was rejected because it posed an unacceptable risk to the officers involved. Ultimately, the SWAT team came up with an entirely different solution, using a remotely operated bomb disposal robot. The plan was to move the robot as close to the suspect as possible and then detonate an explosive charge attached to it. There was just one problem. It was impossible to move the robot without the suspect hearing it. The machine made a noticeable amount of noise while traveling through the hallways. To solve that problem, officers came up with a cover story. Gordon suggested that instead of shouting back and forth, they should continue the conversation over a telephone that would be delivered by the robot. The suspect agreed. Officers brought the robot into the college and attached approximately 1 pound of C4 explosive to it. At approximately 2:30 a.m., the robot began moving down the hallway. All officers except the negotiator left the hallway and took cover in the stairwell 1 flight below. Gordon continued speaking with the suspect. Carrying a ballistic shield, he remained behind a doorway not far from the gunman. Gordon deliberately asked complicated questions to keep the suspect focused on the conversation and prevent him from noticing the approaching robot. At one point, Gordon also retreated downstairs. He later recalled hearing the suspect ask where he had gone. Meanwhile, the robot reached the wall behind which the suspect was hiding. Seconds later, the explosive charge was detonated. The suspect was killed instantly. It was the first known case in the United States in which law enforcement used an explosive charge delivered by a robot to kill an armed suspect. After the explosion, officers approached the suspect's body. Next to him, they found a rifle, 2 handguns, additional rifle magazines, and a bag containing supplies. Although the explosion damaged the robot, it remained operational. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Johnson had scratched the letters RB and several other messages on the walls using his own blood while climbing the staircase after being wounded. Investigators were never able to determine whether those markings had any specific meaning. 5 officers were killed during the attack. Officer Brent Thompson, Senior Corporal Lorne Ahrens, Officer Michael Kroll, Sergeant Michael Smith, Officer Patrick Zamaripa. 9 additional officers and 2 civilians were wounded. In the immediate aftermath of the shooting, 3 people were taken into custody, but were later released after investigators determined they were not involved. Investigators later confirmed that the gunman had acted alone. The suspect was identified as Micah Xavier Johnson. Johnson was enraged by the recent police shootings of black men and stated that he wanted to kill white people, especially police officers. Investigators found no evidence that Johnson had any direct connection to the protest organizers or participants. Johnson served in the United States Army from 2009 through 2014. In 2013, he was deployed to Afghanistan. While deployed in 2014, he was accused of sexually harassing a fellow female soldier. Later that year, he was discharged from the Army. In the months following his return from Afghanistan, Johnson began showing symptoms consistent with post-traumatic stress disorder. However, he was never formally diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and medical professionals concluded that he did not pose a serious threat to himself or to others. Johnson later sought treatment for anxiety, depression, and hallucinations, and he was prescribed several medications. During a search of Johnson's home, detectives seized 2 rifles, ammunition, body armor, bomb-making materials, and what investigators described as a personal combat tactics journal. During the attack, Johnson used a Saiga AK-74 rifle chambered in 5.45 by 39 mm. It is a civilian semi-automatic rifle manufactured in Russia. He had purchased the rifle in 2014. He was also armed with a Glock pistol equipped with an extended magazine, as well as a revolver. At the time of the attack, Johnson was wearing body armor fitted with hard ballistic plates. Investigators later learned that, on the day of the protest, police leadership had instructed officers assigned to the event not to wear military-style body armor. Commanders did not want officers to appear overly aggressive during the demonstration. Instead, officers wore standard Kevlar vests, which were not designed to stop rifle rounds like those fired by Johnson. For the same reason, officers assigned to the protest were not authorized to carry patrol rifles or other long guns.